Hello and welcome for another movie commentary. This time we're back in Don Bluth territory. Actually, I think this is the first major Don Bluth movie we're commentating with me. And we're going back to kind of the base. Actually, no, we did a small one, my bad. But this is still like one of the basics. This was actually
Short rather than a movie proper, but yeah.
the movie where the produced and directed first, if I recall correctly, on entirely his own after he left Disney. It's called The Secret of NIMH, which is also based on a book. But do you believe me if I said that this story is very obviously loosely based on real life events? Apparently, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, one scientist, I forgot his name, my bad, did a series of experiments about ethology, as in the sociological behavior of animals, with rats in the teacher of NIMH, the National Institute of Mental Health. He did it so because he wanted to study potential changes in sociological behavior under the ideal conditions in something that he called the mouse utopia. Essentially, an environment with no predators and a perfect, conditions for life, unlimited food and water, for example. And his results were kind of disturbing. I originally wanted to go more detailed, but thankfully I don't have to. Frederick Knudsen of Down of a Rabbit Hole fame has an entire video about it, and I will highly suggest you to watch that after you're done with this movie. Link in the description. But yes, that series of events, which are still talked this day by the scientific community, inspired an offer to make a book, and which later on was adapted by Don Bluth. Ironically enough, apparently Disney wanted to make was actually approached to make an adaptation, but they refused because, quote unquote, they said, and I quote, they had already Mickey Mouse as a mouse character, and they already made also a movie like The Rescuers.
The Great Mouse Detective exists, guys.
Actually, the Mouse Detective was done around 10 years after this, or 9, sorry, because this was 1982. Also, before actually talking a bit more about the development, let me also say about the context of its release, because this movie had a very small budget, technically 7 million. And while the development team, as far as I know, also crunched themselves to actually manage to get this in a pristine state for release, they had quite a competition, including and not limited to Poltergeist, Rocky III, Firefox, and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. But surprisingly, this movie beat all of them during its first week of release. However,
the one that baffles me the most there was Rocky III. That was also released by MGM.
However, there was one competitor that they clearly had no chance to actually surpass, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And you just cannot manage to win against Spielberg in his prime.
Yeah.
So, however, these also led to positive results because Spielberg was actually impressed by Don Bluth's skills and actually installed the collaboration that led to Land Before Time and An American Tale later on. But that's as far as my actual knowledge of the development of the movie goes. Do you have anything more on it, Pedro?
I do, yes. Basically, the lead character of this movie is called Mrs. Brisby. Here's the thing. In the book, that's actually one thing I do know. In the book, she's actually called Mrs. Frisbee.
Yep.
And anybody who knows anything about toys will know that that's a surprise. That's kind of exactly the name of a certain disc toy that we throw. So, unfortunately, the filmmakers didn't realize until it was too late. Everybody has already recorded their lines by that point. So, oh shit, we can't ship the movie with this word in because the Frisbee company will sue us. So what now? Here's what they did. The editor painstakingly looked into every single line of dialogue in the script that says Mrs. Frisbee, and replaced said fur with the brr sound from any other point in the script where the characters say any kind of word that has the words B and R in a row.
Jesus.
So basically, I hope they were paid very well.
So basically,
like a shit post.
So keep that in mind. Every time you hear the word Brisby in this movie, Actually, every one of those words was edited in post to impose the B and R on top of the F and R.
All right, we can continue with the relevant, but I think we've been long enough. Start before the actual MGM logo in 3, 2, 1, click.
You know, given the actual real-life context that this thing is based off on, it's kind of the opposite from an actual utopia, but the irony is like, well, what happened in the real-life context sort of does mirror why the film goes like this. I won't go too much into it, but long story short, it turned out creating a utopia for rats ended with, well, the rats all dead.
Yeah, again, it's a social anthropological experiment, but again, the video that I will link talks more about it.
MGM, now an Amazon company.
Now, to also quickly mention before it's done, the movie is dedicated to the major voice actress of the titular character, Miss Brisby, Elizabeth Hartman, which sadly passed away, if I recall correctly, before the movie got completed.
So, okay, let me just set the record straight. Wonderful movie. That said, a very, 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 very loose adaptation of the book.
Mm-hmm. Did Dominic Noble actually cover this in his channel?
No. I was actually looking for a video of his to see, but no.
This, also for another context, this is a movie that I watched, me and my sister, actually, when we were actually very little, surprisingly. This is gonna be important for something later that I will mention on my own. And between the experiments of the real-life version of a NIMH and this particular storybook and movie, nations like the UK got fascinated with the idea of an underground empire of humanoid rats wanting to take over mankind, which led ultimately also to stuff like the Skaven race in Warhammer, which I take part of my nickname from. And there's his signature, Nicodemus.
Okay, there's a bit of changes with this character, but I'll probably mention those later.
The major changes that I know is actually this object, the stone. The original book did not actually add much mysticality into it, but Don Bluth actually wanted to inject some of it in it.
I read the book with my mother when I was a child, so I am aware of a lot of the changes made to the book. Now, it really does answer... Okay, this movie does make you ask, do you consider an adaptation like this good for being good in its own identity, or bad for how really it does blatantly change stuff from the book to the point where they kind of veer off into two different sequels?
I guess might.
It's funny because I was talking about this earlier with friends. What's a prime example of a good movie but a terrible adaptation?
Well,
Lord of the Rings, The Two Tower.
There's actually stuff like Jaws. Believe it or not, Jaws
based off a book.
Yes. Jaws was based off.
I love how the introductory credits looks like the end credits.
Yeah.
There's the thing
best movie ever. Let's go, guys.
So here's the thing about stuff like Jaws. You might consider that a bad adaptation, but it's definitely an adaptation that's an improvement. That said, I'd say it's most hardest to decide when you have both an adaptation and an original source material that are just as good as each other, but it really does make you ask, should we consider it still a bad adaptation? Because it clearly didn't adapt stuff well, and if people are trying to judge the book based off of said movie, yeah, differences abound.
It's like Disney's Hercules.
Question, Jova.
Yeah?
Was the movie in any way marketed to be a somewhat faithful adaptation of the book?
I'm not quite sure if it was advertised as a faithful adaptation, but it was definitely advertised as an adaptation that you could watch instead of the book, from what I recall.
Very good artist protagonist.
I can tell that the trailers didn't even mention the book. They just said, a wonderful family adventure that will touch your heart and blah, blah, blah.
You also have to remember the context, the timing. This was the turning point from the dark age of animation to the Renaissance. In fact, Don Bluth made this movie specifically to actually instigate Disney to actually get their shit together.
You know, I kind of have to feel sorry for Don Bluth because as soon as Disney started their own renaissance, they began creaming his films.
Well, well, Don Bluth himself should also blame himself for basically castrating himself as his own talent with films like Rockadoodle.
Well, okay. To be fair, even before Rockadoodle, Rockadoodle was sort of a symptom of the problem in that I think Don Bluth was trying to get with the trends that were suddenly popular and whatnot as a result of, his finer movies starting to get upstaged bad by Disney when they picked up slack.
And yeah, as it's custom for a Don Bluth animated movie, while there are, genuine fluid animation, there is actually a surprising huge amount of rotoscoping.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the animation for this is stellar. Like, again, and mind you, this was the first movie Don Bluth pretty much set out full scale to direct after leaving Disney.
It's said that the animators had to literally crunch themselves actually in a very bad way. 12, 15 hours per day.
Yeah, and by the way, Shiroi, you know how I keep constantly saying that I find Hino to be the Don Bluth of gaming, and I genuinely believe he has an inspiration. Here's one example. Our protagonist is trying to save her sick son who's near death. There you go.
Keep in mind, this was a time before Hollywood actually became very in love with the idea of emotionally manipulate the audience by showing, this character cares much about their family. Please care about him or her.
Yeah, if there is one critique you can bring up
of win an Oscar.
If there is one critique you can bring up of the story, it's that Timmy pretty much does not much in this story.
And
Granted,
yet they made the next film about
Okay, to be fair, this has to do with the fact that he was being set up for the sequel novel called,
If I recall correctly, some of the sequel novels were written by the daughter of the original writer of the book.
But yeah, apparently Timmy was being hyped up even in the original book for it. Technically not in the movie, but that's something we'll cover when we get to Secret of NIMH 2. But yeah, for now, Mrs. Brisby has to try and find a way to cure her son who's dying.
And aren't you charming?
And he's given her the medicine. In the meantime, to answer your question, Jova, well, to me, I can't just answer that question on a general term, because to me, each case it's a case. Because to me, a good adaptation needs to only just capture the spirit of the source material, not necessarily just copy the book page by page.
Okay. Let me ask you this example. Let's say that this adaptation is good, but it doesn't even really get the same spirit. Like, we'll say they're both good ventures, but arguably they're so different that they're practically only similar in a few bouts here, not even the spirit.
Speaking of one difference that I actually know about, this Raven Crow character actually is mostly played for comic relief in this movie, while in the book he was actually more played straight. However, from what I heard, the actual book sequels kept this adaptation in mind and actually re-railed this personality to be more in tune.
Don't get me wrong. I love the World Masterpiece Theater approach. It's I'm a big fan of that series for a reason. But I will still not go into the idea that that's the only acceptable approach.
And yeah, by the way, he's voiced by Dom DeLuise because this was actually the starting of his collaboration with Don Bluth.
But yeah, like you mentioned, Jeremy here is, well, yeah, he was more serious in the book, but here he's more comic relief. I'd say this...
There you go, Dej, Don DeLuise.
Yeah.
Don DeLuise is the John Ratzenberger of Don Bluth movies.
And yeah, Shiroi, the farmers have a cat that at least the other animals refer to as Dragon.
Trust me, the name's fitting when you
Why?
see that.
Oh, you see, don't worry. It's not a T-Rex.
Oh boy.
Brilliant.
You're bad at being a bird.
Natural selection will do its job, Shiro, don't worry.
If this
Okay,
film
spoilers.
Nah, don't worry.
Oh snap!
You know, if this film came out 3 years later, it might have stood a chance against the Black Cauldron.
Wait, who worked on the Black Cauldron?
Disney.
Yeah, about the production staff.
I actually don't know.
If I remember correct, I don't know if Richard Rich was involved
He
in
was
that,
one,
but
he was one of the directors. Yeah.
oh, there you go. That's probably.
Keep in mind that it lost at the box office to the Care Bears movie.
Let me put it this way. Richard,
Oh boy.
Ow! No wonder Disney treats it like crap.
Let me put it this way. Richard Rich works well as an assistant director, and being while at the same time being in charge of the actual proper main director as an actual head of a project. No.
Wait, is the Black Cauldron a bad movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there, Shiro. That's why they call him Dragon.
If there's
That's one
you
bad
know,
cat.
if there's one thing Don Bluth seems to excel at, it's making cats freaking terrifying.
That cat looks very dog-like.
Not just that, the selective use of the background as well. Also, that I think you're behind.
Sure. You think the cat here is terrifying? Wait till we get to An American Tail.
Yeah, this is what we like
I've
to
seen
call,
that movie multiple times.
This is what we like to call the Don Bluth Dark Trilogy, comprising of this movie, American Tail, and Land Before Time. All three of those movies have the exact same color scheme, the same kind of dark atmosphere. It's basically Don Bluth's Golden Trilogy.
Can we just talk about how amazing it is that cats are so proactive in Don Bluth movies? Like, seriously, have you seen a cat in real life? Normally that thing will laze around, but no, cats in Don Bluth movies, they're on it like
it's
a dog.
Also a matter
Maybe
of
he hates
perspective.
cats.
No, it's not that. Just that both this and American Tail star mice, so obviously their biggest predator would be
So why
cats.
didn't they get Don Bluth to do a cats movie then, like an animated one?
Again, Pedro, that's the thing. Most cats in real life will just look at a mouse and just let it go by, but no,
Okay, let me change cartoon mice. So obviously we have cartoon cats.
Did you say I'm behind?
That I think is
Oh, okay.
What time are we at?
12:02:03.
I'm at the same time.
All right then.
I was just saying because everyone was speaking. I wanted to go last.
Also,
Okay.
the cats in American Tail, at least some of them are pretty dapper, so
But we're trying to paint these cats.
Aw.
So anyway, due to Dragon interfering, she lost Timmy's medicine.
Yep.
Oh. Just go to Ebenezer. I'm sure he'll help out. No, okay.
Aw.
Miss Brisby is actually a great protagonist to me, considering how more well-rounded she is. A lot of mouse stories that stars kind of mice took inspiration from this with one simple factor.
Well,
She's not super strong. She's not actually strong in handling things out. It's not like she's completely weak and she gets shit out by everyone. No, she's actually capable. She's just simply not physically strong. But that actually doesn't stop her to do what she needs to.
not just that, but
she doesn't get. No, Tio's right. She doesn't get shipped out here. She gets shipped out in the next movie.
Thank you, Libs.
Okay,
So that's why
okay,
everyone
Dwibs.
hates
Okay,
it.
Dwibs. Okay, Dwibs. Unless your next pick is going to be Secret of NIMH 2, maybe we shouldn't try and
Let's just wait a
stuff as
bit on
much.
that. Also, yes, Pedro.
Not just that, but I'm assuming you also appreciate her entire quest for the same reasons you like Papaneer.
Partially, like I said, giving this movie the benefit of the time it was made, where the idea of a parent concerned as a single parent for one reason or another being concerned about their family was much more genuine and less emotionally manipulative. So there is that.
I will argue that's still fine. I mean, if a movie does it badly, obviously, but I will argue there's nothing inherently wrong with this concept.
Nowadays it's very used as a cheap tactic.
Well, I guess by bad writers, sure, but good writers can still pull it off fine.
Of course. Remember, anybody can write, but only few can write good.
Thank you, Gusto.
Oh no, that was something my #1 gamer told me. So I was just like, okay.
Oh, you were literally paraphrasing
Next scene.
Ratatouille there.
He says that he's basically paraphrasing Ratatouille. Not everybody can be a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere.
Hey, Martin.
Yeah, since, like he just mentioned, Miss Brisby is a single parent having to raise an entire set of children, she actually has some help.
Question, guys. What's the aspect ratio on your copies? Mine's 16:9.
Widescreen, yeah.
It's because, Bibbs, I can actually explain that, Bibbs. You see this, before widescreen TVs were a thing, widescreen was already a thing in cinema, specifically through CinemaScope. So this movie was actually made using CinemaScope as its primary resolution. It's just that most, obviously there's a 4:3 version that most people grew up with. However, when making the Blu-ray and any kind of digital releases, they went back to the original negative, where the movie is in its original widescreen resolution. Like some people find it.
Actor sounds familiar.
Some people find it weird when they see certain old films like these. Wait, why is this in widescreen? Well, CinemaScope, look it up.
Hermione Baddeley, I think that's her name. Let me see what she did.
A good example I can bring up is the 1960s Tom and Jerry shorts made by Chuck Jones, which were made in widescreen, which is why they're on the DVDs. They're in widescreen as well.
I can't seem to find any particularly. Oh, okay. She was the voice actress of the human owner, the old lady in the Aristocats. Interesting.
He's not wrong.
No, you are kind of a loudmouth lady.
It's fitting considering nature-wise shrews are actual predator of mice.
Wait, what is she?
A shrew. Well, I guess it's also...
Well, she has the personality of one.
Yeah, I guess it's also a pun on that.
One of the primary philosophies of Don Bluth when it comes to making films, specifically kids' films, was that in his mind, kids can handle anything, no matter how dark or depressing, as long as you have an happy ending at the end.
Unfortunately, his philosophy couldn't save him for being condescending towards kids in that movie we saw.
Basically, everybody, for context, Deji just recently saw Troll in Central Park for the first time, which was basically very distraughting.
It almost put me to sleep.
I mean, gee,
also, Pedro.
Oh, go on, Joy.
Pedro, I do agree with that, but the problem is a lot of people think it's not about the, destination, it's about the journey, and the journey is really depressing, so you got a lot of upset children on your hands.
No, Shiroy, I survived, didn't I?
You're not American.
Lucky you.
And here's our only actual major song of the movie. Well, not counting unsigned credits. It's also one of the reasons why this is actually one of my not tolerant, but actually one of my favorite Don Bluth movie, not my favorite. The fact that it doesn't actually waste time with a musical number, instead of this song is actually integrated in the movie.
Not to mention, Shiroy, look at it this way. At least Don Bluth does actually give you always a happy ending at the end. Hino sometimes wouldn't even give you that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's a good job I didn't write. It's a good job I didn't, write a script like Akira Hino. All the scripts would be like the bad endings.
Yeah, this poor kid would be dead by now if you wrote this movie.
Well,
honestly,
if we're talking about Akira Hino, I know Leighton would die at the end of the first game.
Honestly, I'd say being the star of that godforsaken sequel is punishment enough. That's worse than death.
Yeah, that's true.
How bad can that movie be?
Oh!
In due time.
The same problem I have with it that I have with the Land Before Time sequels. It in no way tries to capture the spirit of this first movie. So it's not a good sequel by any stretch of the
Honestly,
imagination.
Pedro, that is the least of that sequel's problems. Instead, do you like off-key singing? Plots that don't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, no.
Retcons up the wazoo.
The mere fact that it tries to be instead a full-on musical rather than to be more subtle like this
You
one.
lost me at
And,
off-key singing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the thing though. If it's a musical, the people in it can't sing.
Except for one, but I'm not gonna spoil who that is. And neither
Also,
should you,
yeah, another
Brooks.
thing, the song actually doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just there at the right time.
Oh, hello
What is
there.
this? There's our new enemy, the Cable. The National Institute of Mental Health.
We actually get to see the humans' faces in a Don Bluth movie.
Just a bit. They're not the focus anyway.
That's nice, honey.
Eustace, you need to be more gentle with your wife.
Oh wait, so this takes place in the Curse of Cowardly Dog.
I mostly made a joke about that, yeah.
Honestly, given the sequel, it probably does
Actually,
take
let
place
me
in the
check.
Courage
Is
of
it
the
actually
Cowardly Dog
explained? He's actually
universe.
told in which state this is taking place? I mean,
Takes place in America.
Wow,
Brilliant.
how specific.
No, okay, it doesn't say. It's just a field at the Fitzgibbons farm. Okay.
Was that you were saying about specific, Deji?
Yes.
Oh, I recognise one of the other actors in this film, actually.
Oh.
hmm
There's a character later on called Jeddah, and he's voiced by the late Paul Sheenar, aka Sosa from Scarface,
Which Scarface?
83.
1 year after this.
Yeah, well, 2 years, I think. No, Tio was right. It was
Well, shit.
actually this came out 1 year before Scarface.
So, another thing that Don Bluth can, that some, authors like Stephen King
Oh!
can.
Hey,
can
Rabbit!
it's the
Make-
rabbit from Winnie the Pooh. I forgot his name.
Rabbit.
Also,
Yeah, rabbit.
here's a thing: make an actual, farming tractor actually scary, legitimately.
Don Bluth can make anything scary in these three movies too, because of the fantastic lighting and excellent use of color.
Even in terms of animation directing, the close-ups, the quick cuts,
Hey, yeah, Don Bluth, I saw Bambi.
One of
Also,
the sad
I
things
see
is-
I see the person who's warning them went to the secret of NIMH school of running away from things.
You know what's the sad part as well, that just since you keep bringing it up? The script writer for this movie also was a script writer for Troll in Central Park. What happened?
What happened?
I have no idea.
Look, I know everyone isn't perfect, and some people have their downer moments, but wow.
And yeah, there's the rotoscoping again.
Look,
Mhm.
okay,
I mean,
to be
if
fair,
you like it,
To be
if you
fair,
like it,
there
you
is
made
a
the-
lot of behind-the-scenes troubles with Troll in Central
Yeah.
Park, and it's not entirely on Don Bluth. There was a lot going on there,
or Timmy.
and he did at least, he has pretty much tried to make amends for that film.
No, he himself now says that the movie's terrible, and asks people and regrets
it?
making it.
No, Anastasia wasn't the first film after that, was it? It was something else.
No, it was Pebble and the Penguin.
Yeah.
The
know,
movie was better, but at the time it was too late to save the studio from sinking.
I'll say
He did 2
this.
films after.
Despite some controversies of Anastasia, I do still consider it one of Don Bluth's good films.
Oh,
What
is
about
it?
Bartok
It's a
the
good movie.
Magnificent?
Yeah, I
not
actually
a-
like that one
it's-
too. That's the one sequel that Don Bluth's involved in, and it actually worked.
Yeah, those movies are good. They're not obviously they're not brilliant like the Golden Trilogy that I've just mentioned, but they're still good movies for what they are.
And then Titan AE happened.
With Anastasia, it's mostly just the implications, but as a movie on its own, it's actually fine.
Have you guys already mentioned Jonathan?
No,
Not yet.
we're waiting until he actually
the
shows
movie
up.
itself actually hasn't. For the sake of building up.
Is this the Wizard of Oz?
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Fun
There you
fact.
go. That's the first mentioning of Jonathan.
Fun fact: this movie. Who was a big fan of this movie? Steven Spielberg, and that's why he partnered up with.
Yeah, I
Donald
mentioned in the
Bluth to make-
beginning. Probably the fact again that ET got released right before this one, and despite the competition, obviously ET still won. But I get the feeling Spielberg was actually impressed by Don Bluth's work.
I think I burned when you guys mentioned what they collaborated on. What was it?
An American Tale and Land for Time.
Okay.
The first
So
one.
basically,
specifically.
that guy we just saw was Nicodemus, voiced by Derek Jacobi.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So how many of these people returned for the sequel anyway?
I think only Don DeLuise.
Louise.
Keep in
Only
mind,
him.
like I said at the beginning, Miss Brisby's voice actress sadly passed away due to being driven to suicide.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Don Bluth's movies got kind of cursed. It also happened. The same thing happened with All Dogs Go to Heaven.
And there was also that actress who played, I forget, she was in Land Before Time, the little one.
That's
Yeah, the little
girl.
girl.
That's the girl from
That-
Land Before
that's-
Time he was
That's the same
talking
girl.
about.
Yeah, same girl who played the girl in All Dogs Go to Heaven also played Ducky. Yeah.
Anyway,
She was my favorite one. I'm like, nah, ow.
Anyway, on a less
Yeah, go on,
depressing
Jova.
topic, there's actually a live-action remake for this movie that's been in the works since July 27, 2009.
What company is actually behind it?
Well, on
MGM.
that day, it was announced that Paramount Pictures was working with Neil Berger on a remake of A Secret of NIMH, though nothing materialized since. That said, on March 4th, 2015, Deadline Hollywood reported that MGM had reacquired the rights to produce a new film based on the original novel Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of NIMH. The film...
Meaning that if I had to guess, it's probably if it actually gets done, it's probably gonna be an Amazon Prime exclusive.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so
boy.
the film was to be produced by the team of Daniel Bobker and Aaron Kruger with a screenplay by Ice Age series writer Michael Berg. It would have been James Madigan's directorial
inviting.
debut. However, apparently that's not to be, and Pedro may enjoy this, because as of April 10th, 2019, 4 years later, it was announced that the Russo brothers will be the ones helming this remake.
Okay, that's actually interesting. Are Marcus and McFeely also writing that? That would be interesting.
What do Marcus and McFeely have to do with the Russo brothers?
Well, they co-wrote most of their MCU movies. Well, all
Yeah.
of them actually.
No
So-
word on that, just that we know that the Russo brothers will be helming the remake.
Sure. The reason I asked Joe is because right now the most recent Russo brothers movie that they're making outside of MCU on their own, the screenplay is also being done by Marcus and McFeely, and the protagonist.
Jesus.
Oh boy, mouse bones. Yeah, again, owls tend to eat rodents, so
And Miss Brisby, as she reminded multiple times, she knows about that.
but the shrew told her to have courage.
Remember, the Russos are only directors, Joe. They don't write.
Hello there.
Shelob, you got the wrong movie. Also, that's a genuine reaction. Like, if you had a movie like this done today, that scene would have a very cast talk-like scream. Also, for the record, the Great Owl is actually voiced by the late, obviously, very important actor John Carradine.
Oh, no, you brought me my lunch.
That's easy to say.
This particular owl was actually very prominent on the movie poster.
Yeah.
Just because he looks that imposing.
I can see why, because movie-wise, talk about an animation set piece. Well, granted, that's like almost everything in this movie, but he's...
There's got to be a better way.
Now,
Sorry,
piss off.
Tail, there is no other way.
Damn it.
You said your name was Brisby, was it?
Please don't flash me.
Mr. Jonathan Frisbee. I'm sorry, Brisby. We can say the real name.
Personal space.
Yeah, can I?
For now.
I do not envy the work of the sound editor of this movie, considering that thing I established earlier.
Honestly, yeah, that's a thing. The sound in this movie is very crisp from what I've seen. Like, I mean, obviously, yeah, you expect...
Iteration?
Huh?
Oh yeah, remember, Joe, we're watching the HD remaster, meaning it's in Dolby Digital 5.1, so obviously it's going to look much better than stereo.
Don't you mean sound much better?
Yeah, sound much better. Yeah, yeah, that.
Last I checked, we're not bats. We can't see in sound.
Yeah. I misspelled. Let's just.
It's okay. But no, I mean, like, well, maybe it's because it upscaled it, but like the sound in this feels, I don't know, very on point compared to even some modern movies.
Okay. That was a productive conversation.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I must go back to my TV marathon.
It's a Doctor Who marathon.
Was Doctor Who shown in America in the 80s?
I don't know.
You need to get those cobwebs off your feathers.
No,
yeah,
it makes
just
them
flying a
look cooler.
bit should work.
They're like
No.
wings.
What are you talking about? This is part of my look. This is what makes me look cool.
There we go. Now it's off him.
I've actually seen this movie before, although it's been a few years.
Damn, Mr. Fitzgibbon must have a very big family for having all that laundry. Yeah, not the time.
Alright, this movie is also a bit of a slow burn.
Well, yeah. Don Bluth, in Don Bluth's Golden Trilogy, there's a lot of slower character-driven moments to really allow you to really get a lot of insight into the characters and their plight.
I can sort of get it. This is a movie that does reward you for your patience, and also, I do get some of the slow looks on some of this because it's kind of the devs wanting to boast their animation, shall we say.
That too. That being said, we're already almost halfway through, so there is that too.
Ow. What, do you want to marry you? For some reason, I just don't see that working out.
That's also another good quality, but it's more noticeable as an adult Miss Brisby. Despite, again, what I also said beforehand, she's not exactly a saint of her own. In this case, taking advantage of Jeremy to have him protect her family. It's mostly done, obviously, in good faith as well, but it's to establish that her morality is not the one of a saint.
That's another thing that all three of
You're
these
not
movies
cool,
have in
cat.
common. Well, actually, no. I don't know. I know All Dogs Go to Heaven also had that, to be fair.
Oh, the cat would just want some affection.
Have you guys mentioned who did the score for this movie?
Jerry Goldsmith. Apparently, by his own quote, seems to be one of his favorites. Surprisingly.
But okay, you guys may have noticed something though. Dragon, who we saw is very lethal in going off of rats, suddenly seems to have, well, dozed off. Which is odd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Jared Goldsmith went on to say that of all the scores he's made, this was his favorite.
Also, apparently, the song was actually made in Bluth's garage with a budget.
Yeah, 7 million total.
A really small budget. Like Bluth, Goldman, and Pomeroy had to mortgage their houses. The elevators had to work 16 hours a day, taking their work home with them.
Gee, where did I actually heard that before?
The release was so small, there was no chance. There was very little chance they could make a profit.
They actually, like you said,
this movie did.
Despite trumping the competition in the first week and the being against ET, the movie technically did just double its budget, 40 millions, which obviously wasn't like super enough, but it was just enough to let Don and the others keep going, thanks also to the collaboration with Steven Spielberg.
And as for Nicodemus, the old wise mouse. Derek Jacobi was only in his 40s when he voiced him.
This will be something I mention when we get to Nicodemus later on.
Not to mention Deji, remember, this was before Don Bluth his name became famous, because at the time, he was as an ex-Disney animator, but nobody really knew his actual name.
And at the minute sign of danger, the filter just goes full red.
Yep. Fortunately, he's much better than the Page Master.
Yeah. He definitely not.
Don't never say that name.
Why did you say that name?
So is it like that gag in The Simpsons where every time you say Macbeth, lightning
Did we just become best friends?
Wait, I didn't say Nicodemus.
He doesn't talk much, but actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm. That's the same thing.
Let me guess, he's Nicodemus.
Surprisingly, no. Again, we had also established he shot before about Nicodemus.
No, this isn't the Wizard of Oz.
Oh my god.
Hmm?
So the guy who voices Mr. Ages, he's something a bit of a Don Bluth regular.
Yep.
He actually...
Arthur Mallet.
He actually... he was also in The Black Cauldron, too. And he was in Halloween as the Graveyard Keeper.
No, apparently he was also one of the other returning voice actor for the sequel of this.
Yes, and that was his final film role.
Oh, he was the actor who played Toodles in the book.
Joe,
yes?
When you say Halloween, which one do you mean?
The original 1978 one.
Yeah, because that's the thing. We've got 3 movies of just called Halloween.
Also, yeah, like Tio noticed, he also played Toodles in the movie Hook. Oh, by the way, Pedro, you'll love this. He was Jessaja in Faladay.
I would rather forget that movie exists, to be honest.
Yeah.
In what?
Faladay.
It's a movie about cats that you probably don't want to watch.
I forget, Shiro. Have we actually shown you that movie?
What movie?
Faladay.
What movie?
Oh, she doesn't know. Don't tell her.
Okay.
Wait, what movie?
It's just a movie about cats. That's all you need to know.
No, you cut out what movie?
Felidae.
Felidae.
It's
No.
it's the English pronunciation of a Latin word.
It's
Let's
a
just
movie
say
about
so.
cats.
And let's just say the cats are not doing what you probably think they're doing.
Anyway. So here's one critique I do have about the movie compared to the book. See, in the movie, Jenner is more obviously evil to the point where even Nicodemus points it out, and I'm like, Nicodemus, in hindsight, you should have gotten rid of Jenner.
Which is, if I recall correctly, Jenner is not even that much of a villain in the book. Sure, he's still rather antagonistic as a figure, but not to the point where he is here.
Yeah.
Which is something that we'll see later on. Much like the magic factor, Don Bluth wanted to add also some politics into this.
Mm-hmm.
This is Justin. It's essentially
Zootopia, didn't they?
Yes, personality-wise, he's basically a prototype of the character from the Fox from Zootopia. He's a bit of a smartass and tries to flirt a bit with Miss Brisby, but not too much, because as soon as he understands her plight.
By the way, you know the giant guard keeper rat who nearly killed Mrs. Brisby? That's Brutus. He may seem vicious here, but he's a lot friendlier in the sequel.
He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
Anyway, Justice is played by Peter Strauss, who is still doing work to this day.
But he didn't return for the sequel, funnily enough.
Wonder why. Apparently there seems to be trouble with internal politics of the rat community.
Okay, so here's the thing. In the book, Jenner had already just broken off from Nicodemus's faction and was like part of this other faction of rats who wanted to stick around. Here, Nicodemus again knows that Jenner is evil, but doesn't do anything about it for some reason. It's not even about, like, nobody would listen to him, because, no, the rats absolutely worship Nicodemus in this movie, so I don't get it.
that line was basically the only bit of self-awareness the movie has. Yeah, believe it or not, again, this movie, well, and I guess even if it's in a softer way, the original book, tackled about an actual debate about conservatism and instead liberalism. Specifically in a matter of, just maintaining your place here or moving to a different location.
Oh, apparently you rats are totally going to wipe us humans out.
Is. Also, apparently the actor who voiced Jenner recorded all of his lines before actually knowing what the character looked like, and afterward actively requested to re-record some of them to sound actually more threatening.
Well, actually, it's just Mrs. Brisby.
Still kick her out.
Yeah, that's the thing. The rats refer to other animals as lower creatures for a reason.
Ironic.
You all change your minds very quickly.
Politics.
Are you telling me that politicians/councilmen are
in January is the kind of politician who will want to take an opportunity. But again, despite the fact that similar to people like Oogie Boogie has like a very small screen time, his presence is very noted in the movie.
Aw, how nice.
So much for alignment.
So he's gonna make
No, duh! Of course he's up to something.
He totally wasn't very openly scheming in the corner or anything.
So he's gonna be eaten by the dragon by the end, right?
I'll just let you see
All
what
in
happens.
due time, Dej.
See, the cat isn't all bad.
Oh, poor Jeremy. Oh, you're one to talk being a shrew. Don't worry. Soon you'll be... don't
You're
worry.
evil, lady.
I want you to make sure that he gets eaten by that ferocious cat.
Bye.
Okay. The fact that Martin has the actual common sense should actually be worrying.
Yeah.
I am the Crow. Is that how the movie The Crow ended?
If only it was. That's the turkey.
Well, let me speak first, you little brats.
Please try to do that not having the eyes of an actual lunatic.
He's not insane. He's just tired. Or drunk.
Or both.
His eye on life. Vaccine!
And then they were all eaten by the cat.
Oh no.
Sure it really is, Dwibs. Just from the future.
Well, Jova, to each of their own routing, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, although, if, you have to think though, me and Shuri would have the same ideas, it's just how we execute them would be different. Like, I probably...
All for different reasons, Dwibs. You will be just for the loser Shirei because cats.
I'd have all the characters squished all at once by a boulder or something. Shuri would have them all killed one by one.
It's funny you mention that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Palpatine's in this movie now?
No, I'd be tempted to have the tractor scene play out like that one butter ad we have around here.
Oh my.
I think it's for butter anyway.
Come to me. Trust me.
Yeah, like you said at the beginning, Jova, if I recall correctly, the whole shtick about Nicodemus being more basically a wizard is not in the book.
Not only that, he wasn't old and frail in the book. He was actually pretty still young and strong.
And yet the actor playing him was young. He was only around in his 40s.
I have no idea. I get okay. I guess it's because of what they wanted to do with Nicodemus, but it's such a weird departure. Like,
the idea is from the theming. It's something obviously that you realize more as an adult, but as it was stated in countless review analysis of a movie, the structure of a movie is actually the one of a classic medieval fantasy type of tale. The hero having to do a quest tied usually to purity, escaping from a creature that resembles an ogre or a troll, seeking advice to a creature that instead could resemble a dragon in terms of dangerousness, but also wise, ultimately getting, an answer to instead of an old wise figure that also dabbles in magic, and ultimately saving the day thanks to their purity of heart. And yes, that's the important thing also. Miss Brisby knows also how to read, which is important for a movie like this. Yeah, Jonathan unfortunately died before the story, started.
And he died to Dragon while drugging his
trying to
food.
give him catnip.
Yeah.
Basically, in order to be able to do their business, the rats need to drug the cat. However, there's only so many people who can do it, given that it is Dragon we're talking about.
You gotta say, for 1982, pretty fluid animation. I mean, I'm not saying animated movies before then weren't fluid. It's just, this more so, although the grainy footage does make it look like it came from, 1962.
That's the thing. Arguably, if it weren't for this movie, animation may have... Okay, it probably would have gotten better eventually, but animation may have stagnated around the time.
So yeah, I remember in the real life event, the doctors actually, had mice of their own, particularly albino mice, in order to perform experiment in social type of experiment. In here, NIMH actually kidnaps mice from the street and actually puts them on drugs or shit.
Oh, so they're PETA.
And yet, believe it or not, these rats fared better than the rats put in a utopia. So, make of that what you will. The rats,
fair trade, I guess.
The rats that suffered lived. The rats that were treated well died.
Especially because apparently NIMH invented a drug that, kind of like in the mad scientist in Help I'm a Fish, gives actual self-conscience and intelligence to them.
Why would you ever do that?
Why? The better question is why not?
Because what's the point of being a scientist if you don't play God?
Also, yeah, scientists are evil, don't you know?
It made you see artist circles.
The DNA strand. Yeah, this is like a 2001 superhero introduction sequence.
No, although to be fair, I mean, we like to joke about this, but to be fair, if a scientist came up with a serum that gives an animal rational intelligence, that scientist would immediately gain a Nobel Prize. So it's not like there would not be.
It would be a genuine discovery.
So.
And you know what? There are some.
And then you realize that the apocalypse will be near.
But apparently the scientists did not count the fact that, oh shit, giving that kind of drug to the animals made them actually read the signs, and especially in how to open their fucking cages.
Why did you have those in the room?
The taxes from that state that go into founding that job. Be proud. Also, you can see there's a lot of symbolism with the red string beforehand with the crow and this. But
the mice, however, were blown away because they weren't as strong as the rats.
And you can see there's a lot of nightmare fuel in this movie.
Oh, but hold on, 2 mice were okay. Jonathan and Mr. Ages.
Mm-hmm. But Jonathan knew what to do, and thus he became the hero of everyone.
He's basically John Connor Mouse.
Kind of.
If it weren't for him, they'd all be dead, which is why everybody respects him.
This story also is a prototype of those kind of stories that talk about the responsibility and being attached to an important figure. What should be your identity if attached to this figure, or just be yourself. So again, it was kind of pioneering also on that front.
Yeah, this is all movie original.
Again, the whole everything that's magical oriented is actually movie original. Although, as much as I usually stand on my own when stand on the ground on actual being faithful adaptation, I kind of actually like this change, especially because it paved the way for the kind of bizarre magitech that it's seen also with stuff like this Skaven race. So it's a bit of a conflict thing for me. But I will save that also for the final thoughts.
That's also a movie exclusive detail.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, it just gave them better intelligence, but in the movie, it gives them better intelligence, higher strength in some regards, and apparently slows the aging process. Which doesn't explain why Nicodemus is as old as he is. Technically all these rats are from NIMH, so why is he all of a sudden older
he
here?
was the oldest of the mice.
Because Trevor, don't you see? We need an old character to be the wise one.
Maybe he was the oldest of those mice from that flashback.
I guess.
Irony. Jesus.
So, Dwibs, about dropping a block
something
on
someone else.
That's Jenner's plan. Why is it that you British tend to think so evilly?
Yeah, Dwibs, explain.
But Jover, that's the thing though. The guy that tried to kill is also British.
Also, I want to say something, but it's not proper. Mm-hmm. Classic.
It's a character called Ages, so what did you have a twin brother named Sega?
Yes.
Actually moving away. Yeah, with intelligence and conscience came morality. So of course, at first the rats had to steal from the humans in order to actually survive and create their technology. But as time passes, we're realizing that that's if we feel wrong about it, so we want to actually self-sustain.
Not only that, but stealing from the humans does kind of get the humans' attention, and the last thing they need is attention from the humans.
Well,
I've seen Suicide Squad.
That is also true. We actually did mention it, Jova. Though it's kind of actually both. They actually did. In fact, it's Justin that did genuinely mention that they genuinely believe that stealing is wrong. They should,
Oh yes,
be better.
Yes. But I mentioned the additional motivation. However, in honor for her husband, Mrs. Bruceby volunteers to drug Dragon. You know, the job that got her husband killed.
Again, much like the theming from before, it's the character showing courage in a time where it's needed.
May she get many respects for that, because holy cow, she goes for a lot in this movie.
Especially because, as we've seen before, the political community of the rats is, mostly divided and indecisive, aside from, people with a couple of individuals with strong ideals.
Oh, Jeremy, how did you get free?
How you
I guess eventually Auntie Shrew untied him. Yeah.
Don't go all Daffy Duck on us now.
Also, much like he said once when we watched Speedrunning 3, crows are not magpies. Why? What is Hollywood's idea of misunderstanding these two clearly different type of birds?
Because they often tend to think that any bird will want something that's shiny, even though it's specifically a magpie that's supposed to be like that. Yeah, apparently that jewel tends to get a lot of people's hidden desires out in the open.
I thought this was going to be he was
Next scene.
There's a storm approaching. That usually means a climax in one of these films.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, sir.
I am the storm that is approaching. I don't know.
Actually, Shay, that's a good question. Like, is there? I guess it depends on a case to case, but when is the right time to feed a cat?
Not when they
Anytime.
meow at you, because they've already been fed. They're lying.
Just spoiled little shit. Okay.
They are. They really are.
Now is not the time to hesitate. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Shit. Arthur, what are you doing here?
Whoa, language.
So close. See, that's the thing, Deji. Here in Britain, you can have that. You can have the word "damn" in like 1 o'clock soaps.
Yeah,
Also, we did mention before also the word "die," so I guess it's a PG-13.
No. You can say die in kids' movies.
You can actually say damn in G-rated films these days as well.
Well, true, but this was like early 80s. Like, was that any different or not?
I don't know, because I remember the first TMNT movie
Also dramatic close-up.
had the word damn used
That
a
was in
lot.
1990.
Yeah. But the movie was pretty much at the tail end of the 80s. We want to be extremely technical. Yeah.
Well, crud.
Great, Mr. Fitzgerald. So, time for a prison escape sequence of sorts.
Meanwhile, the rats are going to move the house with technology.
Yeah.
Push.
Actually, it's pull.
Doing all that pushing.
Technically, they are pushing since they're moving forward on the spinner.
Good.
No, she's just dead.
The character doesn't have a neck.
Oh well, your fur isn't that threatening.
Ouch.
So one thing that is inferred about this movie is that while Mrs. Brisby was a lower creature at the time Jonathan met her, supposedly his closeness to her helped her intelligence, and in turn was passed on to his children as well. Remember that because, believe it or not, that's actually going to be an important plot point for the sequel. Well, crud. That'll do.
Such a shame the big prophet Nicodemus didn't see that coming.
I guess he couldn't see that coming for some reason.
And yes, I know he's not a prophet, but yeah.
Well, he did had some kind of clairvoyancy, especially because of that, magic mirror that he had in his room. Yeah.
So, yeah, he is crushed flat.
Boy, I just loved Justin's reaction. He was more like disappointed than anything.
Oh no, he's dead.
I hate it when Nicodemus falls off.
Yeah, I know. That's like the 6th time this week he did that.
He was hoping it endures.
And then she goes right into the dragon's mouth. That'd be hilarious.
Boy, it's close enough, Dej.
But she goes into the dragon's den. You get it? You get it?
Symbolism shit.
It's okay
Thankfully,
though, he's
it's enough on catnip. Yeah.
Yeah.
You sound so depressed about it.
I didn't want that, you bastard.
Actually, he did want that.
Maybe not like this, though.
Yeah, okay, that's a thing. Nicodemus didn't die in the book.
I guess, again, they wanted to add some tragedy.
I guess, but that's the thing. The reason Nicodemus didn't die was because he knew to oust Jenner beforehand. Here, he knew Jenner was evil, but he let him stay around for some reason.
Ouch.
Better?
Yeah, thank you. Also, Jenner is such a stupid villain that the moment there's some media cracking his plans, he outs himself and tries to kill the others.
Justin?
Also, red filter.
Remember how I mentioned that the stone tends to, for some reason, unlock people's hidden desires?
I thought he cut off his arms. Like, oh crap.
No, but there is a surprisingly not as much, but there is some actual blood in a movie like this.
Remember, this was back in the day where Hollywood was much more lenient on what animated films on Hollywood.
And remember, this was the turning point from the Dark Age of animation, so a lot of people were actually expecting this kind of thing to happen.
Remember, this is the same decade that gave us movies like, God, what was it, that name?
Oh, and now Justin's going to piece everything
80s.
Together.
But in the 70s, we had the rough stuff like Bashkis, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the name of his cat.
There are actually several, like Fritz the Cat,
that's it, Fritz.
His own version of Lord of the Rings. Fahrenheit, I think it's called.
God, I've been foiled by a little bit of metal.
Justin, why did you throw your sword away?
I don't
He's
even.
still alive, dude.
Oh, this man is stupid.
Just be glad that his henchman had a last minute redemption. Well, not even last minute, he showed some doubts, but he was alive enough to
Did you throw
intervene.
your sword like an idiot?
No, it's just like, yeah, there you go.
So yeah, sorry, Dej, he doesn't get eaten by dragon.
Surprisingly.
We can still roll him into the kitchen.
So, climax done, the movie's over, right?
No.
If you have any kind of experience with Don Bluth, no, it ain't over.
Nope.
Not enough dead people yet.
We haven't seen
no,
his
not
kid.
just that, Shiroi. I did sporadically mention this in some other commentaries when I actually had to talk about the subject matter, but it's time to actually see something that Don Bluth is, for some reason, morbid, in making in his movies.
Oh crap, the house is sinking.
Yeah, for some reason, Don Bluth in his movies always tries to drown his characters in some kind of way. Like, I don't even know why. I actually asked this to a couple of people, not a couple of people, but a couple of threads in several places to see if there was potential theories or connections to this, or it was just, a thing very, a modus operandi very love to do when he's storytelling. The closest thing that I got is that for a long time he actually did work on a boat, so he might have had a couple of experiences attached to this.
Probably.
But how is this related also to me? Like I said, I watched this when I was actually very little, and since the audience doesn't know, ever since I was little, I actually had several respiratory problems. Nowadays, I actually have sleep apnea, for example. And as a kid, I was kind of like Timmy. I was actually very sick with asthma and stuff. So movies like this, that actually strongly implies characters drowning, suffocating, of course traumatized the shit out of me when I was a child.
Sure. Well, look at it this way, too. Unlike
Well, there they go.
Well, look at
And
it
then
this way.
they all died.
Hold on, yes, Pedro?
Well, to look at it this way, unlike Asterix and Caesar Surprise, at least these movies actually warrant a reason for something like this.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, of
That
course.
was just tasteless.
Yeah, borderline mean-spirited.
Yep.
And then the spirit of Jonathan.
Yeah, again, see, remember, everything that is magic is exclusive to the movie, so we literally have a Deus Ex Machina.
But Courage
Though
of Heart
it's a good
Wizard.
reincorporation, because as Nicodemus said, the courage, the key actually unlocks the true power of the stone. And if you remember the song, Miss Brisby, this mentioned love is the key. So Miss Brisby, actual passioning love for wanting to save her family is what it needs, what she needs.
Oh my god, she turned into a Super Saiyan!
Yes. The choir shows so.
Wait, actually, which came out first? The Frieza arc or us?
Big
Dragon Ball didn't even exist at this point.
Dragon
Oh!
If anything, okay, not this, but Hiroi Karaki was conceptualizing Phantom Blood. There's that.
The first manga came out in 1984, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So yeah, this technically predates the Super Saiyan mythos.
Well, technically,
I'm stealing ideas.
The idea of golden symbolizing power and erect air are elements as old as time.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
Journey to the West.
It's a joke,
that too.
guys.
Hopefully no humans look out the window right now.
Apparently, the Fitzgeralds are heavy sleepers.
Can you imagine what any human would say to this? My darling, I do believe I just saw a mouse gold and yellow raise up one of our cement bricks.
Good night, honey.
Oh my god, now she's lowering it over there to the southwest region.
Honey, are you sleepwalking again?
No, I'm wide awake.
So how was this climax in the book?
It was not magical like this. The rats just move it.
Was it sinking or no?
No. Again, the operation with the rats pretty much went relatively smoothly. Well, I get maybe they wanted to up the stakes for the sake of the movie to make it more exciting.
Most likely.
You know, again, like I said, there are very distinct changes made from the book. Like, heck, Jenner doesn't even die in the end. Nicodemus doesn't die in the end. There's not even that fight. Hey, Timmy!
No, there's Timmy.
That is only line.
Let me check. It would be the ultimate irony. No, Ina Fried. Yeah, you're a bit too late, Jeremy.
Maybe you can make a wig out of it.
But you need, to find someone else for it.
Never mind.
Yeah, about that.
Just be yourself.
What the fuck does that even mean, Miss Brisby?
I guess that means get to it in the love nest. Humana.
Child, you probably
no,
are not old
back
enough
away.
to watch
Oh,
this.
yeah.
It's so worse if they're actually made for each other. Oh no.
Beautiful.
Please don't let them breed.
Too late,
No,
Tio.
they must breed.
Damn it. Yeah, exactly, when you're older.
We will see them in 18
What?
years.
See, yeah, what a nice conclusion.
16 years.
It's like what Pedro was
Oh,
saying,
look at that. They literally tied the knot.
No.
Hey.
Get out.
Wait for it.
There you go.
And they all lived happily ever after. Jesus, how long have you guys been flying?
Yeah, I'm just like, what?
It's gone to sunset, for Christ's
We pretty
sake.
much established, John, that in this world, the filter changes according to the mood of the characters, so... And yeah, that's pretty much it. No post-credit scene, so Miss Brisby will not be invited to the Tom and Jerry initiative, I guess.
Oh, Will Wheaton.
Yes, Will Wheaton. Someone you're
Alright,
familiar with?
so final thoughts, Dej.
I like it. It's fine. Never a really nice movie. Nothing about it felt inoffensive. It didn't feel condescending. There was actually a plot.
There you go,
And
there's the book
characters?
mention.
So I do respect that. And like everything does wrap up nicely. Please ignore that tie in the knot pun that we told earlier. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Shiroi.
Yeah, this was lovely. Not too much to say about it. It was just really charming. The movie, but looks really good for the time. I like the characters. What else?
The music, I guess.
Yeah, no, the music is lovely as well. I'm not quite sure what to say because it's just very charming. It's a nice movie. It's
Very charming indeed.
I still like about the whole book and movie adaptation difference thing. I think it's perfectly enjoyable, even though I have no experience with the book whatsoever. I feel like it's only really a problem for me if the movie is riding off of the book, which apparently this didn't. So, yeah, it might not be a good adaptation of the book, but I think it's still a very good movie and a very enjoyable experience on its own. And that's it.
Lips.
It was okay. I mean, to be honest, I prefer Land Before Time more than this.
Wait, you're Dwebs, that you said the exact opposite thing when we watched Land Before Time for this channel.
I guess
What?
time
He
has
said that
changed
he
your
preferred-
opinion.
He said that he preferred Secret of NIMH over that one.
Yes, that's what you said, was.
Well,
How the
that's a great
times
thing about-
change.
I mean, again, I haven't read the book, so I won't comment on anything about that. Best part of the film for me was the score. I mean, it's from Jerry Goldsmith, so you expect it to at least be somewhat good, and lo and behold, it's good here. Which is a funny story as well, because Jerry Goldsmith, the year this film came out, Star Trek 2 came out, so Goldsmith did the music for that.
That movie score is also great.
Yeah, we at least got a James Horner score out of it, so it's not bad. But yeah, that's about it.
Jova.
It's a good movie. I'm not quite sure it's my favorite Don Bluth movie in the sense like, well, it's a great movie, but in a way it does feel kind of a bit template-wise in the sense where, you know, a lot of his stuff does feel like templates for later and better, greater Don Bluth movies. This one is still a powerhouse of animation itself. The music is great. It is very fluid for the time, and again, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is what helped kickstart the renaissance of animation in general.
On the long run, it did, Jova. It's similar to how the death of Gwen Stacy helped the ball rolling from transitioning from the silver to the bronze age of comics.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a real good movie. Not the best of Don Bluth, I'd say. Like, there are other ones I like better, but no. This one is pretty damn good, honestly.
Okay,
Next.
Pedro.
It's interesting because most people will say this is his best movie. For me, it's a two thing. Like this is the most intellectual of all of his movies because of the topics it deals with. That being said, I do think the emotional side of the storyline was put in second place over the political aspects, which again depends. Obviously, whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing will depend on your preferences. I already know Teo's preferences, obviously, but I do think like a balance could have been achieved. But then again, Don Bluth probably had so much trouble getting this movie made that probably was a bit too concerned with just getting the movie out rather than worry about stuff like that. But that being said, no, it's still a great movie for what it's trying to do. I prefer Land Before Time. I feel that movie not only manages to both a really great thematic potent message with the strength of diversity angle, while at the same time having a way stronger emotional resonance because the characters are more fleshed out. All five of them. Whereas in here, it's mostly just Mrs. Brisby, who really is
carrying everything.
Whereas most of the other characters, they're fine, but they're underdeveloped. Especially Timmy.
He literally has like 2 lines.
So it's like one of those things where here's the thing. The reason something like this works on other pieces of media that I can think of is because let's see. Here's how you get parents saving the dog. Let's use Nier. Let's use the first Nier. Let's use the Papa Nier as an example. The reason Papa Nier and your work is because we actually do get to properly see how the relationship are, like how everything led to the circumstances of that story. So we do get a lot of insight into everything. So of course we get to know these characters on a deeper level. Whereas in here, we don't get to know either of the children on a deeper level. As a result, yeah, like Theo said, the children are mostly just there to serve as Mrs. Brisby's motivation. But yeah, again, the focus of this movie is more on the political and commentary aspect rather than the emotional resonance. So that's fine. The movie is more focused on politics. But personally, I will pick Land Before Time over this one because I feel that one manages to do a much better message of balance of message. Sorry. And emotional resonance. So, but it's still a great movie nonetheless. So,
all right, that leaves me. This actually is my favorite Don Bluth movie. Well, keep in mind.
A movie about rats being Tio's favorite Don Bluth
that's the thing, Jova. That's the thing, Jova. That's the thing, Jova. I don't really hate it, but I don't particularly care for An American Tail in comparison.
Well, Tio. American Tail's about mice, not rats. This is about rats.
You should know me enough. I encompasses all under it.
Really? I thought you were preferable to rats over mice, honestly.
No, all variety. The nice, the mean. So there is that.
Weird, because you always seem to have a grudge against Pikachu.
That's not
interesting. Wait, Tio, do you like Eevee?
That's a fox, whatever.
No. I just need to know. Do you like Eevee?
I prefer one of its evolutions of Vaporeon.
I'm pretty sure everybody does. So.
No, there are people who generally love Vanilla Eevee, but we're off topic. Anyway, like I said, this is my favorite Don Bluth movie. Though keep in mind. I too tend to consider most of the ones they did around this era around the same level. So it's not like the others, including An American Tail, are that far below this one. One thing that I will say that I noticed rewatching this is that the HD being in HD has not been very kind to this movie, because you actually start to see a bit more the imperfections given to how the movie was made in the animation, which is a bit sad, considering the passion that is done. Aside from MGM sponsoring this is technically speaking an indie animated movie when you get down to it, without a colossal like Disney or even Warner Bros. Potentially backing this up, and as we mentioned, the salt and sweat and again crunch that the animators in Don Bluth had to pour into this, and also all the tragedy attached to it, including Mrs. Brisby's voice actress. So I'm also willing to cut some slack in order to some of the elements of the movie, that are more rushed. Like we're missing, like we mentioned, missing establishing of Miss Brisby's family. I get the idea a lot of things were trimmed away for the sake of, not being too clogged up on the animation and releasing this in time with the budget that they had. I do believe that if Don had more time and money, probably it would have been like 30 minutes longer, and we would have, more depth to it.
Oh no, definitely, Theo. A common problem with all of these three movies, except for American Tail, is that there was things that were cut. Land Before Time in particular, Theo, had like 10 minutes of it cut.
I also remember interviews that it was actually partially screwed by the network, because some of the original draft had the movie being even more dark than it actually turned out to be. But that's a story for another time. But as for this one, I like the voice acting. I mostly used, as you can imagine, by the Italian dub, but listening to this original one is actually pretty nice on its own. The animation, like I said, despite the HD trim not doing most of its favors, is still superlative for the time it was again, dark age of animation. I'm not saying that, the Black Cauldron has a lot of problems, but I do believe its animation is actually one of its stronger suits. So even Disney was still understanding something at that point, but this was still on a complete different level. Again, Don Bluth just injecting his own style with the idea of characters' expression, movement, and rotoscoping, just give an imprint which will be later seen in all of his movies, including the one in the 90s, for as bad as we are, that it's still there. Even we have seen it in Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, So there is that. Now, the big topic that also got raised, also thanks to Jova, is this contest about adaptation and how much not this is one of it. Again, I'm conflicted because it's mostly due to nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, because if I wanted to be more analytical, I would say that this not being a good adaptation doesn't do much of a service in terms of a book. Though you have to keep in mind that back in the day, book authors were just happy to get adaptations of any kind, just to give actual promotion to their products, rather than just keeping themselves if they saw that they diverged too much. This is more apparent with stuff like Star Trek and 007, as also been noticed in those respective movies. So I wonder if it was a case like this. That being said, I'm open up to an actual adaptation that is actually very favorable to the book in the future. We'll see if that eventually happens.
Again, the Russo brothers are apparently working on a live-action remake.
We shall see in due time, I suppose. But to conclude this, so as you can see, the other reason why this is, again, my favorite is that, it takes itself very seriously. The characters are surprisingly intelligent and, kind in their emotions, particularly, again, the protagonist, Miss Brisby. And the movie doesn't waste too much time, with musical numbers, and just contains just a simple song that it's just done a bit at the beginning and incorporated later in the credits. Nice and tight and simple. So, of course, a lot of years later, they had to make a sequel that has none of this. Absolutely none of this. Fun fact, however, Don Bluth was actually asked to work on the sequel, and he would have done it. However, he was working on Anastasia at that point, so he was too busy at that point.
So Anastasia saved him.
But it did not save the movie, so tune in for another time, eventually. I really don't want to watch it this soon. For Secret of NIMH 2, Timmy to the rescue.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Tio.
Happy birthday.
Well, for the Considerably movie as well. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.